Okay, secondary fuel filter installation. This is the Type 2 design. Wish I could have done this on a truck, but I don't have any trucks that don't have the filters changed. But luckily I have this engine set here. So, what we're going to do here is swap that out. The secondary and final filter housing, as it's called, which is a canister filter. And we're going to trade it up for this, which is a spin-on deal. This has everything you need, ready to put together, new fittings. It does have the check valve in it. This check valve does the same job that this check valve does on the original design, which is prevent overpressurization in case this filter plugs. That check valve opens and the fuel goes out to this T and back to the tank. And then shortly thereafter the truck will quit because it doesn't have fuel. In any case, when you get this fitting will have a piece of tape on it, number 1. This fitting will have a piece of tape on it, number 2. This fitting has a piece of tape on it, number 3. You'll note we have this still open. That is because this uses this hose that's originally on the truck and goes down to the frame, which is the return line to the fuel tank. The fuel lines, which are supplied with a kit, each will be tagged with a number. In that case, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Each fuel line, whatever the fuel line number, will correspond with the fitting on the new fuel filter kit. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. Again, this fitting uses the line that's already on the truck, and we'll cover that. Now, what's important is when we're taking this apart that you mark the 3 fuel lines on here. This line, this one, and this one. In this case, this, I want you to put a piece of tape on it, number 1. This one, I want you to put a piece of tape on it and mark it as number 2. And this one, put a piece of tape on it and mark it as number 3. This one, this line goes down to the frame of the truck, and on the frame of the truck, that's where it connects and goes back to the tank. This hose right here, we will reuse. In fact, we can take it off. You'll need a 3/4 inch wrench for this fitting, and for the other fitting, 3/4 inch for this. Now, I'm just doing a quick demonstration so you guys know how to do this kit. When you put this together, put some pipe dope or Teflon tape on that, and that will be going right there. And then, of course, when it's all back together, you'll hook that back to the lines down on the frame. You get the kit, you get a bag or a plastic bag with some ferrules and washers. We'll show you what that's for, and 3 new lines. What we're going to be doing is changing fuel line number 1, number 2, and number 3. These lines are going to be junk, but what you will be keeping is that fitting. Nothing more than that fitting there, here, and here. This is why I want you to mark these 3 lines when we take it apart, so you know what lines go where when we put it back together. Alright, right now I'm going to unhook these 3 fuel lines and these 3 nuts which hold it inside the engine. These nuts are 9/16. So just take these 3 fuel lines off. After you've taken this one off, take these 3 fuel lines off and these 3 nuts and 3 washers. And that's the next thing I'm going to do. Alright, here we go. Okay, everything is unhooked. Now what I want you to do is to take this line right here, put a piece of tape on it, and mark it as number 2. It's important you do this. Number 2 on that line. Take this line, put a piece of tape on it, mark it as line number 3, this line here, and then this line right here. I want you to put a piece of tape on it, mark it. Number 1. Number 1 is the feed line from the pump on the side of the injection pump, or the main fuel pump. I mean, depends on who you talk to. Everybody's got their own name for it. But in any case, it's the transfer pump, main engine pump. It is the line coming from the pump to the filter housing. You want a number 1 on that. Line from the filter down to the very back of the injection pump, or the fuel density compensator. You want to mark that as number 2. And lastly, the line that begins here, runs in the back behind the injection pump and comes up to here. You want to mark this as number 3. This is the return line. Alright, so after you got them marked, you want to get these down out of your way. Take them off. And now that's unbolted, so you can pull this right off the side of the engine. And that's what you have. Now, some people may say, well, you're taking a filter housing that has 2 filters on it, and you're exchanging it for just 1 spin-on. Why not 2? Well, here's the story behind this. Again, we covered the check valve that's right here. Fuel comes in. From there it goes to the very first filter. Original filters, 10 micron, 6 micron, depends on who you ask. But in any case, most people are running Manapa filters, which are 10 micron. The fuel must go through this filter. Then it flows to this filter. After passing through the filter, then it comes out here and goes to the back of the injection pump. Now, in the event that this filter should plug, this check valve opens, and then the fuel comes right out into the return line and goes back to the tank. Followed thereafter very shortly is the engine quitting because it's not getting fuel. If this fuel filter plugs, your engine will stop. More importantly, because this is a series setup, fuel must flow through the first one in order to get to the second one. If this is filtering to 10 micron, and this is filtering to 10 micron, and the fuel is already filtered with this one, what is this filter doing? It'd make more sense if these were 2 different micron filters, and this one filtered down to, say, 10, and then this one's filtered down to 5. That makes sense. But they're the same micron rating, and the fuel must pass through the first one in order to get to the second one. If this one plugs, your truck stops. So, what I did, because it's cheaper, unless people want to pay more money, but in any case, since this filter is truly not doing much of anything, you know, I don't know what the original design the engineers were thinking about. I'm sure they had some thought, but there's always the issue is military wanted it, even though it didn't need it, so they built it. Can't lose sight of that. With this, you've got 1 filter that is a spin-on. If this filter plugs, it stops. The same as if this filter plugs, it stops. The benefits are, for the 2.5 ton, you're going to end up with more room here, which is, you know, a nice little addition. Get in there, and I put the fittings together in such a way that you can get the filter in and out. But for those of you that have LDS engines, you know your starter sets right here. And it is a pain in the butt to get to with that set in there. With a single filter, as you'll see after I get set on here, setting here, you have a lot more room down here. Plus, it's a shorter housing to begin with, but you'll have a lot more room to get to your starter. So, all right, from this point, make sure you have your lines marked. Line number 1, line number 2, line number 3. Now we're going to get to this, but you'll notice line number 3 has a little holder down here, and line number 1 has a little holder on the side of the engine. Other than that, just the fittings will hold it. So here we go. We're going to put this together. Now, you may notice we have 3 studs sticking out here. We're only going to use 2. So what do you do with this back one? Well, you do not leave it that way, because this plate is actually here. So, That is why these two washers are supplied. You slide them on the back stud, and you're going to tighten that down. Tighten that all the way back down. Now if you wanted to, you could get a new bolt the right length and put it in there. If you wanted to spin that stud out and put a shorter bolt in to tighten down. But the point is, you want something tight right there. So here we're gonna set the new filter housing on there. Okay, new assembly's on there. I didn't tighten this up because I'm not keeping this thing on this engine set here. Oh, don't get me wrong, I think this is a running engine, but in any case, so tighten that up, tighten your nut back up in there, tighten your nut back there, and that is on there. You're basically done. You've got the original hose that goes down to the frame. This is going to have a bend to it. I mean, that's not tight, which is why it's moving. But you're going to hook that back onto the line down by the frame. But here's line number 1. In this case, this is going to go on through. You're going to take that bolt out for line 1 and take this fitting off right there. What you're going to do is after that's off, take that holder, put it back on line number 1. You want to take the tape off, and then take that fitting, just the brass fitting, which is the same as this right here that I'm turning. Not that ferrule on the very end, but the brass fitting right there. You want to keep 3 of those. You're going to cut these lines in 2, these old lines, not the new lines. The new lines are cut to length. But you're going to take, back to number 1 here, you're going to take that bolt out, get that line holder out of the way, take that fitting off. That's line 1, which we have set on there. What you're going to do is take that fitting, put it down over the new line. After you put your holder that's down there, you're going to put that on the new line. Then you're going to take that fitting, just the fitting only, make sure the threads are pointed that way. You're going to set it down over the line. Then you're going to get one of these sleeves, also called ferrules, right there. There's 3 brand new ones supplied. You're going to take one of them, slide that down over the end. Now you're going to put this line, shove it back into right there. It's very important that you shove the line all the way in. And then slide that fitting up and tighten it down. Don't over torque it, but make it nice and tight, and that'll make the ferrule or the sleeve seat itself and hold line. Then take your holder, put it back in. Same up here. Slide that all the way up in. Keep in mind you got to make sure it's lined up with the ferrule. But holding the darn camera crooked while I talk here. Put that up in there, and then tighten that down. Don't over torque it. You'll get a feel for it. It's brass. If you give it too much pressure, you end up stripping it. And now that's number 1. Number 2 is the one back yonder, right there. Do the same thing, but number 2 is the short one. It only goes from here to there. Same thing. You're going to slide the number 2 line right here. You're going to slide it up into that fitting, and then you're going to take that fitting off, cut the line so you can get the fitting, put the fitting on first, then the new ferrule, slide the line in as far as to go. You might want to wiggle it around a little bit, make sure it goes all the way in, and then slide the fitting back up and tighten the fitting. That's number 2. Number 3, you want to loosen it up here. You got a line holder right there. Take number 3 out of the way. Same thing. You're going to grab the line that is marked. What do we got here? Yeah, number 3. You can fish that back through there before you hook it on anything. Fish it back through there. Make sure you get your line holder on it. And then number 3 is going to go right here on the return side of the check valve. Now again, that's a check valve, same as the original, to keep things from getting too much pressure in case the filter should plug. Just open and blow the fuel back to the tank, just like the original. So hook number 3, put it up in there, Make sure you have your line holder. Same thing up on this side. Take that fitting, slide it back over the line, slide the third ferrule or sleeve onto the line, pull this line up in, make sure it's all the way up in, holding it, just like all of them. Got to make sure you hold that line and tighten that fitting. You don't want that line to move until it's tight. Then put your line holder back in over there, tighten that up, hook this onto the line down on the frame, and you're good to go. Just make sure that, you got this tight, the 3 nuts tight, and this one with the 2 washers on it. And now you have brand new fuel lines and a spin-on secondary fuel filter kit. Part of the reason why I did this is these fittings that are here, here, and here. I'm not going to say they're obsolete, but what I will say is you can't buy them anywhere. Versus these fittings are everyday compression fittings. You can buy them at hardware stores, auto parts stores, everywhere. I have thought about shipping with new fittings to put on here, but it's more work, and some guys don't want to do the work or can't. Whatever the story is. But in any case, I give everything new except for the 3 fittings right there, those threaded fittings, to put it all together. The reason why I supply the lines is because it cut the length, which is close to the original anyway, but a lot of these fuel lines should be changed on trucks anyway. It's plastic, it gets old and brittle, and then you got problems. You're doing the work of putting this kit on, a couple more bucks, a little bit more time, and you got new fuel lines there. So, in any case, now that you have that on, for those of you who have 5-ton multi-fuels can see you got a heck of a lot more room. So, here's the original video for the Type 2 spin-on secondary fuel filter kit. And as a little wrap up, over yonder there you can see that engine that I just showed this installation on, set next to a Hemet transfer case in a can. Rather than do a blue screen, we'll do a little video just showing a little snow and scenery as I talk. I forgot to say, as far as bleeding the air out of the system, if your in-tank pump works, wet the gasket on the filter with some diesel. You could put a little oil, doesn't matter, but make sure you wet the gasket on the filter there, and spin it on. Do not use a wrench to put it on, just put it on by hand, and then turn your master switch on and well, let it go for 2 minutes. It'll shove all the air back through the system, back to the tank. You'll have a little pocket of air, no big deal. Start your truck up. It may quit after a second or two, or it may take a couple seconds longer for it to start. If it starts, fine. Air's all out of the system. If it runs for a couple seconds and quits, well, it got a little air, no problem. Hit the starter, start right back up. If your in-tank pump on your truck doesn't work, because, well, there's more than one out there that doesn't, and you don't really need the in-tank pump for the engine to run anyway, but I'm not going to get into that story. Take and fill the filter with fuel and then put it up on and start it up. Again, may have a little bit of air in there. May have to run the starter a little bit longer, but it'll start up. Or it may start up and quit, just hits the starter again. And with that, we've almost done a 270-degree turn of the parking lot here. We end with the grill of the park, or the video we end with a grill shot of the Peterbilt. Any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.